Welcome to the Grimdark Chronicles. Something of mystery, an information repository, and a place of history and bygone times. With the archival world of Calliope lost to heretical treachery, now only a few data repositories remain. Corruption of individuals. Corruption in Warhammer 40,000 often begins at the individual level, where the Chaos Gods exploit the inherent flaws and desires within a person's psyche. The Chaos Gods, Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, and Slaanesh, each manipulate different aspects of sentient beings. Khorne preys on anger and thirst for violence, Tzeentch on ambition and hunger for knowledge, Nurgle on despair and the fear of death, and Slaanesh on vanity and desire for excess. For example, an ambitious planetary governor may turn to Tzeentch for the power to outmaneuver political rivals, only to be ensnared in an endless cycle of manipulation and betrayal. The physical manifestations of corruption further illustrate the power of chaos. Prolonged exposure to the warp or intentional pacts with the Chaos Gods can result in mutations that reflect the patron god's influence. These mutations are often grotesque and horrifying. Tzeentch's followers might develop additional limbs or unnatural sensory organs, while Nurgle's servants become bloated with disease, yet immune to pain. These physical changes serve as both a blessing and a curse, granting power while marking the individual as irreversibly tainted. Possession by demons is one of the most extreme forms of individual corruption. Demons seek to exploit psychic vulnerabilities, using individuals as vessels to manifest in the material world. The possessed often exhibit unnatural strength, resilience, and warp-based abilities. However, their original personalities are typically obliterated, leaving behind a husk entirely controlled by the invading entity. In rare cases, such as with Saint Celestine's encounter with demonic forces, strong-willed individuals can resist and even banish the possessing entity. The process of corruption often begins subtly, with whispered promises or incremental gifts. A struggling artist, for example, might initially accept a slight enhancement from Slaanesh to perfect their craft. Over time, they may descend into full servitude, creating twisted works of art that glorify their patron. In the famous story of the Emperor's Children Legion, Fulgrim's descent into corruption began with his quest for perfection and beauty, ultimately leading him to Slaanesh's embrace. Perhaps the most compelling example of individual corruption is Abaddon the Despoiler. Once a loyal servant of the Imperium as a space marine in the Sons of Horus Legion, Abaddon eventually succumbed to the temptations of chaos. He now leads the Black Legion and serves as the most significant mortal threat to the galaxy. His fall showcases the insidious nature of chaos, which can transform even the most stalwart defenders into its most fearsome champions. Corruption of organizations. Corruption in Warhammer 40,000 is not confined to individuals. It often spreads to entire organizations, with catastrophic consequences. The Horus Heresy serves as the most famous example of this phenomenon. War Master Horus, once the Emperor's most trusted general, fell under the sway of chaos. His fall led to the corruption of nearly half of the Adeptus Astartes legions, igniting a galaxy-wide civil war that fractured the Imperium and created the traitor legions. The Inquisition, tasked with rooting out heresy, has also faced its share of internal corruption. While the organization wields immense power to protect humanity, individual inquisitors have fallen to chaos, using their authority to further their dark ambitions. The case of Inquisitor Kyria Draxus, who uses forbidden xenotech in her quest against chaos, illustrates how even the most well-meaning actions can lead to corruption. Chaos cults represent a subtler but equally devastating form of organizational corruption. These groups infiltrate imperial society, spreading heretical doctrines and destabilizing governments from within. For instance, on the hive world of Necromunda, chaos cults have sparked numerous uprisings, turning entire sectors into battlegrounds. Cults often lure disaffected individuals or those seeking forbidden power, creating networks that can destabilize entire planets. The Adeptus Mechanicus is also vulnerable to corruption, particularly through its relentless pursuit of knowledge. The Dark Mechanicum, a splinter faction aligned with Chaos, exemplifies this. These tech priests have embraced demonic pacts and warp-tainted technologies, creating weapons and machines that defy the natural order. The schism between the loyalist Mechanicus and the Dark Mechanicum during the Horus Heresy remains one of the most significant organizational corruptions in Imperial history. Even the Officio Assassinorum, an agency of Imperial assassins, has faced internal corruption. Assassins trained to eliminate threats to the Imperium have occasionally succumbed to the allure of chaos, using their lethal skills to further dark agendas. This illustrates that no organization, no matter how secretive or disciplined, is immune to the insidious reach of chaos. Corruption of planets and locations. The corruption of planets and locations in Warhammer 40,000 showcases the devastating power of chaos on a massive scale. Planets exposed to prolonged warp storms or demonic incursions often become irreparably tainted. A prime example is the demon world of Medrengard, home to the Iron Warriors Traitor Legion. The planet's landscape is a nightmarish blend of twisted metal and demonic architecture, reflecting the influence of its chaos-aligned inhabitants. Demon worlds are perhaps the most extreme example of planetary corruption. These planets exist entirely within the warp or on its fringes, where the laws of reality are warped by the influence of chaos. On such worlds, geography and time are mutable, and the very air is thick with warp energy. Mortals who find themselves stranded on these worlds are often driven mad or transformed into twisted servitors of chaos. Even planets within the Imperium are not safe from corruption. Cadia, once a bastion against the forces of chaos, ultimately fell during Abaddon the Despoiler's 13th Black Crusade. The planet's destruction was a catastrophic loss for the Imperium, allowing chaos forces to surge into Imperial space unimpeded. Cadia's fall highlights the Imperium's ongoing struggle to contain the spread of corruption. Corruption also manifests in environmental degradation. The influence of chaos can twist ecosystems, turning once fertile worlds into barren wastelands or grotesque mockeries of life. The flora and fauna on such planets mutate into monstrous forms, and the air itself becomes toxic. Planets like Mordant Prime, which succumb to chaos cult uprisings, serve as grim reminders of how quickly corruption can spread and destroy entire worlds. The Eye of Terror, a warp rift of unimaginable scale, is the ultimate example of planetary corruption. The Eye engulfs countless worlds, each twisted into demonic realms under the dominion of the Chaos Gods. These planets serve as staging grounds for invasions and as a constant threat to the galaxy, illustrating the vast and enduring reach of chaos. Corruption in warfare. Warfare in Warhammer 40,000 is a breeding ground for chaos corruption, as the violence and desperation of battle often create openings for the chaos gods to exert their influence. Chaos Space Marines are the most prominent example of this phenomenon. These warriors, once loyal defenders of the Imperium, betrayed their oaths during the Horus Heresy and now serve the Chaos Gods. The World Eaters, devoted to Khorne, epitomize this transformation, reveling in bloodshed and seeking to spread destruction across the galaxy. Traitor Guard, or Chaos-aligned Astra Militarum units, add another layer to corruption in warfare. These soldiers often defect to Chaos out of fear, coercion, or genuine belief in the promises of the Dark Gods. Their training and weaponry make them formidable adversaries, and their ability to infiltrate Imperial ranks further complicates efforts to root them out. The Blood Pact, a notorious Chaos-aligned regiment, exemplifies the danger posed by such corrupted forces. Corruption also manifests in the use of demonic war machines. The Defiler, a terrifying fusion of machine and demon, serves as a prime example. These war engines are not merely tools of destruction, but living embodiments of chaos, driven by the malevolent will of their demonic cores. Such weapons represent the ultimate blasphemy against the machine god revered by the Adeptus Mechanicus. In addition to physical corruption, the psychological toll of war often leads to moral decay. Soldiers facing unending conflict and impossible odds may turn to chaos as a means of survival or revenge. The infamous story of Commissar Caiaphas Kane's encounters with chaos forces illustrates how even the most disciplined units can falter under the weight of corruption. Finally, the use of psychic warfare introduces another avenue for corruption. Psychers on the battlefield risk drawing the attention of demons, potentially becoming possessed or tearing open warp rifts. This danger is particularly acute among the Grey Knights, a Space Marine chapter dedicated to combating chaos. Despite their psychic prowess and rigorous training, they must constantly guard against the corrupting influence of the forces they fight.